In 2007, a man locked in silence for 6 years spoke a single word the moment doctors switched on 2 electrodes buried deep in his thalamus. And neuroscientists still cannot explain how a structure the size of a walnut can flip human consciousness on and off like a light switch. He was 38. A robbery in 1999 left him with a traumatic brain injury and a diagnosis doctors rarely reverse: minimally conscious state, not coma, not vegetative. Something in between, flickers of awareness with no way out. His eyes tracked movement. His hand sometimes gripped a spoon. But he hadn't spoken, hadn't named his mother, hadn't asked for water in 6 full years. His family visited a body that seemed at times to be listening. Neurologist Nicholas Skiff and his team proposed something radical: implant electrodes not in the cortex, where thoughts supposedly live, but in the thalamus, a structure buried near the center of the brain that most textbooks describe as a simple relay station. They switched the current on in 2005. Within moments, the patient turned his head toward his mother. He said her name. Days later, he asked for a drink, chewed food, watched a full movie without drifting. A man who hadn't formed a sentence since the Clinton administration was suddenly narrating his own return. Doctors expected small gains, if any. What they got looked less like therapy and more like a switch being thrown. The obvious theory said this was simple plumbing. The thalamus in every anatomy course is the brain's mail room. It takes in signals from your eyes, ears, and skin and forwards them to the cortex, where the real thinking happens. Stimulate the mail room, the thinking briefly speeds up, the patient rouses. Under that theory, the thalamus is a relay, not a source. Consciousness should live upstream, in the folded gray cortex everyone points to when they talk about the mind. Fix the wiring, and the light already on in the house just gets brighter. Nothing about that requires the thalamus to be anything more than a switchboard operator passing messages along. But here's what makes that impossible. Patients exist with cortical damage far more extensive than this man's, entire lobes scarred, language centers partly destroyed, who remain fully conscious, fully present, clearly themselves. Meanwhile, a stroke no larger than a pea, landing precisely in the thalamus's central region, can erase consciousness entirely, dropping a person into coma within hours. A structure supposedly downstream of the real, thinking organ is, somehow, the one place where damage reliably switches the whole system off. If the thalamus only relayed messages, losing it should dim the signal. Instead, losing it can end the show. Inside that walnut-sized structure sits a cluster called the central lateral nucleus, part of what researchers call the intralaminar system, and this is where it gets strange. Every second, your brain receives billions of signals. Light hitting your retina, pressure on your skin, sound waves in your ear, your own organs reporting in. You experience almost none of it directly. Something filters that flood down to the sliver you call now. The sentence you're hearing, the chair beneath you, this thought. That filtering appears to happen here, in this small structure most people have never heard of, sitting quietly at the center of your skull right now, deciding what becomes you and what never surfaces at all. Researchers can watch it happen on a scan. They can trigger it with electricity. What they cannot do is explain the mechanism, how a handful of neurons decides, moment to moment, which fraction of reality gets promoted into conscious experience, and which billion signals get discarded in silence, unfelt, unseen, gone. Competing theories have tried to close the case. Global workspace theory says consciousness is just information broadcast widely enough across the brain to be seen by other regions. Integrated information theory says it's about how tightly connected a system is, not where. Thalamocortical loop models say the cortex and thalamus talk in rapid circuits, and consciousness is the conversation itself. Each theory predicts stimulation should help gradually, incrementally, unevenly. None of them predict a man going silent for 6 years and speaking his mother's name within moments of a switch flipping. The data keeps outrunning the models built to explain it. Which leaves the actual mechanism sitting where it started, a small, generally overlooked structure at the center of your skull, filtering your entire reality right now, tested, mapped, electrically manipulable, and still fundamentally unexplained. If flipping a switch here can hand someone back their mind after 6 years, what exactly is deciding, second by second, whether yours stays on?